Have you ever removed your helmet?
I have.
Then you are a Mandalorian no more.
After this shocking scene, a lot of people are probably wondering if Mando is still a Mandalorian. Now that the Watch has cast him out of the cult and with no real place to call home, you can't help but wonder if he is still classified as a Mandalorian, especially given that he was not born in Mandalore but was instead adopted into the culture. But determining whether Din Djarin is still a Mandalorian is really just a matter of perspective. As we know, the children of the Watch are fanatics and arguably much more conservative when it comes to Mandalorian traditions. After all, according to them, every Mandalorian is mandated to never take their helmet off, or rather be seen with their helmet off. And while wider Mandalorian society very much revolves around a martial culture, the Watch takes it a step further. There isn't a lot of flexibility in their way of life. But that being said, while the Watch may not consider him to be a Mandalorian any longer, it does bring up the question of what does Bo-Katan and the rest think of Mando? Do they consider him to be a Mandalorian? As we learn from the Armorer, Bo-Katan and wider Mandalorian society don't really adhere to the ancient traditional ways of Mandalore all that strictly.
They lost their way, and we lost our world.
And for all we know, the culture of adopting a foundling and raising it to be a Mandalorian might not even be a culture practiced by other Mandalorians. As we see in the Clone Wars, the vast majority of Mandalorians consider Mandalorians to be those born on the world, and there is hardly any mention of the word foundling. Additionally, when Maul kills Pre Vizsla to take control of Mandalore and Death Watch, Bo-Katan immediately rejects this idea, stating that only a Mandalorian shall rule Mandalore.
Never! No outsider will ever rule Mandalore!
But this makes it slightly unclear if she's rejecting Maul on the basis that he was never inducted into the Mandalorian way of life, or on the basis that he was not born on Mandalore. And the distinction between the two may seem rather arbitrary, but it's actually a huge distinction, and one that could determine how Mando is received by other Mandalorians when he may lay claim to the Mandalorian throne. Whether he would be accepted or shunned revolves entirely on this issue, so it's actually pretty unclear how they would perceive Mando in the first place. But that being said, at the end of Season 2 of The Mandalorian, with Mando now in possession of the Darksaber, and as someone who practices Mandalorian traditions, they might still come to terms with his identity. After all, Bo-Katan and her Mandalorians have a much more relaxed understanding of what it means to be a Mandalorian. And given that there aren't many of them left, well, beggars can't be choosers. But what is more central to Mando's story is also his journey of discovering his own identity. Despite being cast out of the cult and unable to find a way to redeem himself, there is a small little detail that tells audiences that what other people think might not matter as much.
Excuse me, sir. You're going to have to remove your weapons.
I'm a Mandalorian. Weapons are part of my religion.
Keep in mind that this scene follows right after he is cast out, which goes to show that despite all that, Mando still considers himself to be a Mandalorian. And this signals a lot of character growth, as he himself reiterates that to be a Mandalorian is to be committed to attachments.
That is the opposite of our creed. Loyalty and solidarity are the way.
And so it is his commitment to the foundling Grogu that ultimately confirms his identity as a Mandalorian, regardless of what others might say. And perhaps what is inherently linked to his journey is the self-realization that he must forge his own path and establish his own Mandalorian identity, a journey that is ultimately linked with his greater destiny that lies with Mandalore. And so to answer the question, is Mando still a Mandalorian? I think that answer would be yes, he is still a Mandalorian. From a certain point of view.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
So is Mando a Mandalorian? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.